Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy here for the Daily Blob, and I've heard you. You don't want to hear so much about politics. So I'm not going to talk about politics in this particular video. I'm going to talk about legalese. Oh yeah, so much more exciting. Anyways, a hell of a lot less exciting, but it is actually important, especially if you're going to be a startup founder. Anyways, before we get into the show today, again, my shilling, silicondojo.com. We're doing fireside chats. Next Monday, we're having Louis Rossman on for a Zoom call to talk about what his current project is with Right to Repair. And then Thursday, we're having David Cox, VP for AI models at IBM. He's going to be talking to us about what IBM's view of the AI world is. I have heard from you. You hate it when you click on my videos and then listen to me talk the entire time. Ridiculous. So anyways, I'm bringing other people in, and you can hear what their opinions are. If you come into the Zoom call, basically you can ask your own questions to learn from them. That is the big reason why we do it on Zoom. And then afterwards, the video will be uploaded to YouTube. Anyways, the real exciting for the day, though, I know what you're really excited for. You're like, oh, Eli, give me the legalese. You know how much I like the legalese. Anyways, so Andreessen and Horowitz, right, the big VC firm, actually out of California, right, basically funds damn near everybody that's anybody. The curious thing is they are leaving Delaware for their articles of incorporation, and they believe that you should too. We're leaving Delaware, and we think you should consider leaving too. Now, this is important if you're going to be a startup founder, because back in the day, I don't know, 5 years ago or whatever, 10 years ago, the idea was that you always created your corporation in Delaware. So Delaware has some of the oldest corporate laws in the United States, and basically they have really focused on being a good place to create a corporation. So if you're going to be creating a startup company and you're going to be IPOing or being acquired or going to be getting investment or whatever else, the idea is that you should always set up your corporation in Delaware. So if you're in North Carolina, you set up in Delaware. If you're in Texas, you set it up in Delaware. If you're in Washington State, you set it up in Delaware. Didn't matter where you lived, you set up your corporation in Delaware because they had the best laws. The curious thing is, I don't know, about 10 years ago, probably about 10 years ago, there became a question about whether Delaware was still the best place in order to set up your corporation, simply because a lot of the corporate laws had been like normalized across the United States. So at one point, it was like Delaware was the clear leader in corporate law. And as things go, you know, states realized they were losing out on corporations in their states, so they started modeling what they were doing after Delaware. And so there is an idea after maybe about 2015 that it didn't really matter where you incorporated anymore. You didn't really need to incorporate in Delaware. The curious thing is, you know, when I talk about these fireside chats, we had Shane Pareco on last month, a month and a half ago or whatever else. I was asking him, because his corporation is actually out of Delaware. I asked why his corporation is out of Delaware now that everything is normalized. And basically what he said is he literally went and he talked to investors and listened to them. He asked investors questions and then listened to their answers. And basically all the investors said that they only invest in startups that have their corporations out of Delaware, period. He was like, so how many corporations have you invested in that are not incorporated in Delaware? And they all said none. They all said none. So he incorporated in Delaware. And that is the truth about why you do things many times in life, right? You get this out of the news. You get this out of the noobs. Well, people should do things different. Like, yeah, great, kid. Great. Come back in 5 years after you've had some 9-year-old girls just turn your balls into mush. And then tell us about what you would do. Oh, would you do that? Would you do that? Oh, go have fun. You have fun. Come back when you've learned a couple lessons. So what's interesting now is we've seen this with Elon Musk, right? So there was the court case with Elon Musk in Delaware, where a shareholder, he owned like one share or a couple shares or whatever, basically got Elon Musk's compensation package overturned. So Elon Musk moved for Tesla's corporation, from Delaware to Texas. We've heard about Meta possibly doing this, and we've started to hear more and more of these technology companies talk about moving their corporations out of Delaware. And so I am not a lawyer. I'm just a jackass in a basement. Telling you stuff, explaining things to you. I do think this becomes an interesting question of how relevant will Delaware be going in the future. And then the other thing to be thinking about, if you're a startup founder, is where are the cool states to set up your startup in, or at least the corporate structure for your startup, right? Because think about this, with investors, right? There's this thing, Zig Ziglar, you sell the sizzle, not the steak, right? Everybody has steak. You sell the sizzle. You're always selling a story. Like whoever you're selling to, whether you're selling B2B, B2C, or you're asked to an investor, right? You're always actually selling a story. Nobody gives a fuck about you. Nobody cares about the product. They care about the story of the product, right? So anyways, one of the things to be thinking about if you're trying to go out there and get investors is the story that you're trying to present to the investors. And we might be coming to the world where the story is that it's better to be set up in Texas, right? Because like Shane that we had on the Fireside Chat, you can go watch the video, right? He set up his corporation in Delaware because the story is that's where you set up corporations, right? VCs will only take you seriously if you set up in Delaware. And you say, yeah, but literally corporate law and all that kind of stuff, you could set up in other states and you'd have the same protections and everything else. Yeah, no, but the story, right? The sizzle, not the steak. Anybody can sell steak. Texas can sell steak. Nevada can sell steak. Washington, D.C. can sell steak. But Delaware has that sizzle, and that's what the investors want. And so what you'll be thinking about now, as the world changes, is Texas's sizzle just a little bit more tasty to the investors than Delaware's is. I mean, if you're gonna have steak, well, I'm gonna just tell you, if you're gonna have steak, go to fucking Texas. Holy shit, man. I've had to go to Texas sometimes. Man, you get a Texas steak. Dude, that steak was alive that morning. You can taste it. You can fucking taste. You can taste the scream as the cow died that morning. It's that fucking fresh. You put your fucking ear down to that little steak. Motherfucker's still screaming for its life. That's how fresh the thing is. Anyways, but that steak. Oh, fuck. Oh. Give me a thing about Texas steak. I mean, you know, you should be plant-based. I'm plant-based. I predominantly eat plants. But if you're gonna have a steak, Texas is the place to eat a steak. Anyway. Let's see here. It used to be a no-brainer. Start a company, incorporate in Delaware, right? That is no longer the case due to recent court actions by the Court of Chancery, which have injected an unprecedented level of subjectivity into judicial decisions, undermining the court's reputation for unbiased expertise. This has introduced legal uncertainty into what was widely considered the gold standard of U.S. corporate law. In contrast, Nevada has taken significant steps in establishing a technical, non-ideological forum for resolving business disputes. We have therefore decided to move the state of incorporation of our primary business, AH Capital Management, from Delaware to Nevada, which has historically been a business-friendly state with fair and balanced regulatory policies. We could have made this move quietly, and this is an interesting thing, right? Because everybody's got to scream from the mountaintop. You can't just do your job anymore and go home. You gotta scream it from the mountaintop. Everybody wants to be the next Elon the computer guy. Anyways, no. We could have made this move quietly, but it's 2025, so you're not. But we think it's important for our stakeholders and for the broader tech and VC communities to understand why we've reached this decision. For founders considering a similar move, there is often a reluctance to leave Delaware based in part on concerns of how investors will react. As the largest VC firm in the country, we hope that our decision signals to our portfolio companies as well as prospective portfolio companies that such concerns may be overblown. While we continue to fund companies incorporated in Delaware, we believe Nevada is a viable alternative and may make sense for many founders. So one of the things they're doing here is they're saying, we're not just doing this for us. We are trying to be influencers to get other folks to do this. The foundation of Delaware's historical reputation has been non-ideological, specialized business courts that have developed a robust body of case law around the so-called, quote, business judgment rule. Over the years, the Delaware courts developed a limited number of objective, common-sense exceptions to this general rule. However, recently, those exceptions have begun to swallow the rule. Although the Delaware legislature has taken some exception to these developments, its actions fail to take full measure of the problem. In particular, Delaware courts can at times appear biased against technology startup founders and their boards. Oh, they appear biased. And this is going to be one of the interesting things going forward, especially with the Elon Musks of the world and this whole, what the hell's going on in 2025. This whole idea of the story, like, oh, the beleaguered billionaire. If only I was a poor person, I would have a great life. But because I'm a beleaguered billionaire, all these people are coming after us. And so there appears to be a bias. They didn't say there is a bias. They said it appears to be a bias. Nevada has taken a different path, choosing instead to codify the business judgment rule in statute, eliminating the ability of judges to modify or change the rule. In addition, the Nevada legislature recently passed 2 measures that take significant steps towards upgrading its existing business courts into specialized venues to resolve complex commercial disputes. Statutory business judgment rule. The presumption of good faith and informed decision-making is the bedrock of any corporate code that seeks to encourage entrepreneurship and risk-taking. While Delaware was a pioneer in this area of the law, what developed was a creature of judicial decision, not statute. The critical limitation of this approach has been made plain in recent years. What judges have given, they can take away. By codifying the business judgment rule in statute, Nevada has significantly limited this risk. Shareholder limits on director and officer exposure. Nevada law, by default, permits broad protections against individual liability for officers and directors. And so this is something to kind of keep in mind. Like one of the things I talk about with Tesla is, right, board capture. It appears to me, if I'm drunk and hungover and blindfolded, that the board has been captured. Anyways, right, as I've talked about before with corporate boards, the corporate boards are there to protect shareholder value. Shareholders are the actual owners of the company. The boards, representative democracy, whatever, are supposed to represent the shareholders. And so they have a fiduciary responsibility for the shareholders, and there is liability if they don't do what the hell they're supposed to do. Again, one of the things I don't understand with what's going on with Tesla is I think the board should get smacked. My personal opinion, somebody should take a legal baseball bat to every damn member of the Tesla board. But anyways, legal one. What becomes interesting here with this idea of moving to Nevada or moving to other places is the idea of limiting the liability of the officers and the directors. I think this will be curious going into the future with these corporations, especially since so many corporations were in Delaware. You may think that you understand the rules of the game for investing in corporations and the whole 9 yards. With more and more companies moving to different states, literally the rules that they work under may be significantly different than you realize. Monetary damages are excluded if they result from any act or failure to act in a person's capacity as an officer or director, unless a plaintiff rebuts a presumption that the officer or director acted in a good faith and informed manner and proves that the act or failure to act is a breach of a fiduciary duty involving intentional misconduct, fraud, or a knowing violation of the law. So intentional misconduct, fraud, or knowing violation of the law. So they're just fucking idiots. So here's the thing. If you're going to set up a corporation in Nevada, just make sure your board members are fucking idiots. If they're too fucking stupid to understand what their responsibilities are, that's the kind of board you want. That's what Andreessen Horowitz wants out of your boards. Dumb fuck board members, right? Because think about that, and proves the act or failure to act as a breach of fiduciary duty involving intentional misconduct, fraud, or knowing violation. So they have to know. It's their responsibility is not to know what their responsibilities are. If they don't know what the fuck is going on, they're A-OK. Does that make you feel comfortable about investing in Nevada corporations? Inspection of corporate books and records. Nevada provides only 15% or greater stockholders the right to inspect books and records, which significantly limits the ability for plaintiff lawyers to engage in fishing expeditions and bring frivolous lawsuits. In contrast, Delaware permits any stockholder of record to inspect a company's books and records for any proper purpose related to a shareholder's interest if such request is brought in good faith. So the idea here is you want to take a look at the books and records, you have to own at least 15% of the company. Anyways, established business courts. The greatest advantage enjoyed by Delaware is the specialized expertise of the Court of Chancery. However, that advantage has eroded as judicial decision-making has increasingly seemed to veer away from the technical expertise for which it is known. Nevada has taken steps to narrow the gap. So anyways, this is why Andreessen Horowitz is moving their corporation from Delaware to Nevada. I don't know. It'll be curious to see how it goes. I think one of the big issues that I see right now with a lot of this is it's just all these masters of the universe, right? These wannabe tyrants, right? These people, they believe they understand how the world should work, and everybody should hop and get on board with their idiocy, right? And it seems like, right, anywhere where there's a check or balance against their power, they're pushing back against it, right? If anybody says no to them, they cry, whine, bitch, and moan just like alpha dogs do, right? Everybody knows you tell the strength of an alpha dog by how big their snot bubbles are. And so they're basically going there. They're venue shopping, right? There's all kinds of ways to do shopping. Venue shopping for court cases or whatever else. It looks like they're starting to do a venue shopping for where to set up their corporations. I'll be curious to see where this goes in the future. I honestly believe it's a bad thing for these CEOs to have as much power as they do. There needs to be a check and balance system. The board needs to be a check and balance on CEOs. But in this weird world that we currently have, there's this idea that the CEOs basically should be kings of the corporation, right? They're just little Trumps at this point in time. And I think it's going to bite a lot of people in the ass. I mean, we look at this with Meta right now, right? So Zuckerberg spent $60 billion, tens of billions of dollars on the metaverse. I knew exceedingly few people who gave two shits. Well, I knew exceedingly few people who gave two shits about VR. And even now, most people didn't really care that much about the metaverse. And yet he dumped tens of billions of dollars into this because essentially nobody could say no to him. He believed the metaverse was the future, ergo, he's dumping all this money in the metaverse, right? We're now seeing it with AI, right? They're going out there, they're spending all of this money on AI. What's it going to do for Meta? Who the hell knows? Like, I can't even argue the plan with Meta because, like, who knows what this is for? We had somebody on a fireside chat who used to work for Meta, and basically he said, well, the reason you invest in this stuff is you don't know what the value will be, but in order to find out the value, you need to invest. It's like, okay, that's very much how Silicon Valley works. I'm not sure what I'll be able to give you for your money, but I want you to give me a lot of money, and then I'll figure out if I can give you something of value back. Right. Anyways, we see that with Meta. We see this with Elon Musk, and he moved a corporation of Tesla down to Texas, and basically he's doing what the hell it is that he wants to do. And I think this is bad. I think this is bad for society. I think it's bad for the companies. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be bad for the CEOs too. Without any kind of pushback, right? People can be as stupid as they want to be. It's that whole thing that I always say. Back when I was like 17 years old, there was this mall in Jessup, Maryland I was at, and there was this scribble on the wall. I was like, what was it? I saw the greatest minds of my generation, cold, shivering, naked in the dawn of a new age, right? And that's the thing, is like the people that were the greatest minds of a generation become the senile old fools. I mean, that's what it is. And we're living longer and longer and longer. Right? Elon Musk may have been the greatest mind of a generation. hey, it's getting a little bit long in the tooth, right? And I think Palmer Luckey is the mind for another generation. But that's the thing, is if they have so much control, if there's no way to wind that control back, if you eliminate the check and balance that the board is supposed to have over the CEO, and then you eliminate the punishments against the board for abject failure to do their job, anyways, they're going to get their billions of dollars. All that matters is they get their money. If they have to mine the foundations of our civilization to get a couple of extra fucking pennies, they will fucking destroy the foundations of our society to get them. But anyways, it's a curious thing to be thinking about when you're thinking about incorporating, and it is something to consider now, right? So depending upon the investors you're going after, that type of thing, it may be a flex. It may actually be a flex at this point in time to make your startup, incorporate it in Texas or someplace like that. So it is something to consider. So what are your thoughts? Put them down below. Give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down, leave us a great comment, leave us just a god-awful comment. It doesn't matter. In the modern world of social media, all that matters is that interaction. So give us an interaction. And with that, see y'all later.